Council meeting of March 23rd, 2026. Can I get a roll call, please?
Zazada. Larson.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Carlson. Powell.
Here.
Verbic.
Here.
Walker. Mayor Barnes.
Here.
5 present.
So we've got a spring break syndrome going on. A lot of people traveling, Alderman Walker and Alderman Zazada, and I just got off the phone with Alderman Carlson, let me know ahead of time that they're not going to be able to make it. But we have a quorum, so we're good to go.
The best ones are here.
Exactly, right. All right, with that, Captain Hy-Vee, would you mind, actually, everyone, if you could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Captain Hy-Vee, if you could lead us, that would be great. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Shadow, and good luck tonight. All right, moving on to agenda item C, approval of the agenda. We take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Smith, seconded by Alderman Powell. Any comments or questions on the agenda? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Larson.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Powell.
Yes.
Verbic.
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes, the agenda has been approved. Agenda item D, presentations. Number one, I've got a proclamation here. It is this one. So this proclamation is for Sexual Assault Awareness Month, the 25th anniversary, April 2026. Whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month, SAM, marks 25 years of national efforts to raise public awareness about sexual violence, promote prevention, and support survivors. And sexual violence affects people of all ages, gender, races, and backgrounds, and its impact extends beyond individual families, schools, workplaces, and communities throughout DeKalb County. The national theme, 25 Years Stronger, Looking Back, Moving Forward, recognizes that ending sexual violence requires collective action, shared responsibility, and sustained commitment from individuals, organizations, and institutions. Survivors of sexual violence deserve to be believed, supported, and given access to trauma-informed, survivor-centered services that promote healing, dignity, and justice. And prevention is possible in DeKalb County, and it starts with all of us. It is how we support one another, practice consent, and create spaces rooted in care and respect. When we act with intention, we move closer to a future free of violence. For 45 years, Safe Passage has served DeKalb County as a vital resource for survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence, providing crisis intervention, advocacy, education, and pathways to safety and healing. The dedication of local advocates, service providers, educators, and community partners continues to strengthen DeKalb County's commitment to creating a safer and more just community for all. As we look forward for the next 25 years, we renew our commitment to building a future free from sexual violence. Together, we can continue to strengthen prevention, support healing, and create communities where everyone feels safe and valued. Now therefore, I, Cohen Barnes, Mayor of the City of DeKalb, Illinois, by the authority vested in this office, do hereby proclaim April 2026 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in the City of DeKalb. I encourage all residents, organizations, schools, and community leaders to honor this month by increasing their understanding of sexual violence, standing with survivors, and actively participating in efforts to prevent harm and promote safety for all. So this isn't something that you would give a round of applause for, but what I would love is we could show our support for all the volunteers and all the people that help create a safer world for those in our community. If we give a round of applause for them, please. Is there anyone here from Safe Passage to receive this? Oh, there you are. Beautiful. Hey, come on up. Let's do a photo op here. And when I say photo op sounds so bad, this gives another opportunity to bring awareness on social media posts that we'll be able to do. The fact that Council, we can recognize the hard work that Safe Passage does, and we can utilize that to further the message that's out there. What, Brad? Oh,
No, no,
Oh, okay. All right.
no.
Come on. Sure, people in front of Barbara and I.
All right here we'll do two. Start. 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
All right, one more round of applause for St. Patrick's. All right, I've got another one here. It's National Transit Employee Appreciation Day. I don't know if you all had a chance to see some of the new buses that are out front. Super cool. They're all wrapped. They have that new bus smell, which is always fun. I'm not used to getting in a bus and having it be like that, so it was quite nice. So this is National Transit Employee Appreciation Day, March 18th, 2026. So whereas National Transit Employee Appreciation Day was established in 2009 to recognize the efforts of transit workers across the United States, and public transit serves as an essential resource within our community. It plays a vital role by providing residents and visitors with reliable transportation options. This necessity ensures that individuals can access important destinations, participate fully in community life, and benefit from the opportunities that public transit affords. The City of DeKalb's public transit functions through a collaborative partnership that includes the City of DeKalb, the City of Sycamore, the Town of Cortland, and Northern Illinois University. This partnership is dedicated to providing reliable transit service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, ensuring that transportation needs are met for our local communities and the university. Through this continuous service, City of DeKalb Public Transit actively supports our collective goals in transportation, sustainability, and equity, helping to foster accessibility, mobility for all residents and students. And transit employees dedicate themselves each day to ensuring that transit users are able to reach essential destinations such as workplaces, healthcare providers, educational institutions, and important community services. By facilitating access to these opportunities, transit employees play a crucial role in supporting not only the personnel needs of individuals, but also their social and civic engagement within the community. And transit employees consistently begin their workdays before sunrise and continue their duties well after sunset. Their commitment often requires them to work on weekends and during holidays, times when many individuals are able to enjoy moments with family and friends. This dedication ensures uninterrupted transit service for the community, reflecting the essential role these employees play in maintaining reliable transportation throughout all hours and seasons. And in addition to meeting stringent safety requirements, transit employees must demonstrate a high standard of customer service. Their daily responsibilities call for patience, empathy, and understanding, which are essential in fostering a welcoming and inclusive environment for both community members and visitors. By consistently upholding these values, transit employees help ensure that public transportation remains accessible and inviting to all. Every year on March 18th, communities throughout the United States come together to celebrate National Transit Employee Appreciation Day. This annual observance is dedicated to acknowledging the commitment, diligence, and essential contributions of transit operators. Through their hard work and steadfast service, these employees ensure that public transportation remains a dependable and vital resource for residents and visitors alike. Their dedication underpins the success of public transit systems and enhances the quality of life within our communities. Now therefore, I, Cohen Barnes, Mayor of the City of DeKalb, Illinois, by the authority vested in this office, do hereby encourage all citizens to recognize not only our local transit employees, but those nationwide, not only on March 18th, but year-round for their valuable contributions. Can I get a round of applause for all our transit employees? And Mike, I know you got some of your team. If you want to come on up. Counselor, you want to join us? This is how I love starting meetings. We're appreciating people, we're thanking people. It's pretty awesome.
All right. 2, 3, 3, 4. Very good.
All right, and the hits keep coming. I've been anxiously awaiting this report for quite some time, but tonight we have the DeKalb Police Department's 2025 annual report. I do want to call out anyone, if we've already covered your agenda item, you're more than welcome to leave after your agenda item has been covered. It's not disrespectful at all, but you might want to stick around for this report. Chief, it's all yours.
Thank you. So greetings, City Council, City Manager Nicholas,
all department heads and everyone in attendance tonight. And correct, this is our time of year where we reflect and look back at the years past and see what we did right, see what we did wrong, and see how we can improve. I think we all know there's no perfect system, there's no perfect entity of government, there's no perfect person. So with that being said, we always strive to become better. We seek the ability to be perfect. We know we will never be that, but it's okay to seek it. And that's what we do at the DeKalb Police Department. And I am one person. I represent the 99 members of the DeKalb Police Department, and there are several in attendance today, and I really want to thank them for their support of not just the DeKalb Police Department, but for the city of DeKalb, because this report is reflective of their hard work. The boots on the ground, officers who work tirelessly every day and night, they do an amazing job for the city of DeKalb. And for everyone that's listening, I want them to know that because they don't always get the opportunity to, some people say it's a thankless job. I don't believe that here in the city of DeKalb. I get thanked all the time. I know my officers and the personnel at the DeKalb Police Department, sworn and civilian, get thanked regularly for the job that they do. So here in DeKalb, it's a little different. I will say there are other places in the United States where it might not be so, but thank God we're in DeKalb, so we don't have to worry about it being a thankless profession here. So with that said, I'll begin the report. And so 5 years, coming up in the next little bit over a month, I'll have my five-year anniversary here as Chief of Police. I cannot go any further without thanking the man who brought me here, City Manager Bill Nicholas. He gave me an opportunity to come and lead the DeKalb Police Department. And I will say, as I've always said, that when I arrived there, the DeKalb Police Department was an amazing organization when I got here. I was able to at least put my stamp of what I can do personally to lead a department. I got that opportunity from Mr. Nicholas, and I will always thank you for that, sir. And then, of course, the support of City Council. We could not do the things that we do without your support, and I want to thank you personally for that. So with this coming up, my 5th year anniversary, I want to renew my oath to lead the DeKalb Police Department effectively, righteously, and with unimpeachable integrity. I believe that. I will tell you, I talk to my mother regularly, I guess, and she makes sure that I'm aware of where I came from, and she expects the same thing from me. So I figure I better put that down in paper. So every year I try to find a watchword for the department to follow for that year, and this year was purposeful because we're going to lead this year, and we're going to move with a purpose, and that is to continue to decrease crime in the city of DeKalb, make DeKalb a safer place. So we're going to move with purpose. And with the 75 sworn officers that we have now, and this is the first time that we have been fully staffed, although I say that, and then shortly after that, we had a young lady who quit the academy, which, sometimes the academy will tell you if this job is for you. And in this case, it was not. So, of course, it dropped our numbers immediately once we got fully staffed. But at least we could say that we have been fully staffed this year, and we will, of course, get back there shortly. So we will move forward at some point with 75 sworn officers. And with that, they will lead and move forward with clear intentions. We'll continue their dedication to drive down crime. That's what we're going to do. There was a time early in when I started here in DeKalb where I said that we could not arrest ourselves out of crime, and it's still true. But what I did say is that as a unified front that we could reduce crime here, and we have done that in that way. It starts with the police department. We know how pivotal that we are in this whole fight to reduce crime. I mean, everything starts with us, it ends with us. We have to do our job, we have to be diligent, and vigilant every night. And I ask my officers every day, win the day. Just win the day, and then we'll move on to the next day, and we'll win that day. And before you know it, you win the month. Before you know it, you win the year. So with law enforcement, along with, and I want to make sure that I make note of this, that our realtors and our DARA, which has been so effective for us, along with crime-free housing, the job that Bob Riddell has done, bringing them together, assisting us, making sure that we're renting to law-abiding citizens. And I've always said that as well, that you're welcome here in the city of DeKalb if you're a law-abiding citizen. If you're not a law-abiding citizen, then you're not welcome here in DeKalb. It's that simple. And DARA has made it their goal and their mission to make sure that they rent to law-abiding citizens. So that's, I want to give them their thanks, along with the DeKalb County State's Attorney's Office, who have been extremely supportive in holding criminals accountable in the city of DeKalb, in the county of DeKalb. And then I want to make sure that I give out a commendation to the public, because truly, we could not do this without the public. And I've said this over and over again, that as a public, as a community, we also have to be responsible for our own public safety, meaning when you see something, say something. And our community has done that. And that's why we give out community awards every year for that reason, because we need you to let us know when you see things that are suspicious. Don't worry about, is this going to bog us down? That's our job. So if you see something that's suspicious, you should call the DeKalb Police Department. And I can't thank the public enough for doing that, because we truly could not do this, and this report wouldn't be as good as it is without their support. They give us eyes where we don't have eyes, and that is so important with driving down crime. So I want to thank everyone I just listed. That's a unified front. That's truly how you reduce crime together. It's not one person's job, it's everybody's job. We all have a responsibility. So thanks everyone on the list for doing that. As I talk about the Unity Bridge that I call Unity Bridge at DeKalb, which is building the bridge between the police department and the community, it has never been stronger. And one of the reasons, and we talk about Fun Jam a lot, and when I tell you that that event every summer that we put on after school is over for the year for the children, that we do at Welsh Park and other parks in the city of DeKalb, has been unbelievably successful. It has grown beyond my expectations, I will tell you 100%. And we've had a lot of help from our city council, from city government, to make it what it is today. But I do want to make some special, I want to at least give some shout outs to Opportunity DeKalb. They've done a great job helping us, the Park District, Break Room and Friends, Black Ink. We have worked together as a group from the beginning with this program, and we're looking forward to having a great year this year. And I just cannot tell you how important it is that we keep events like this going in the city of DeKalb. It truly builds a bridge of unity, especially not just from the police department to the community, but from the community and everyone who comes and enters the city of DeKalb. So we're going to continue to do that, and I look forward to this year with Fun Jam, because like I said, it's gone way beyond my expectations. So I'm very excited for the future. So let's get into some numbers. So we talk about crime and the reduction of crime, and we've seen a reduction in crime in a lot of different places. Violent crime is the most important crime that most people are concerned about, because that's crimes against persons. I know property crime is important as well, but I think people want to know that they can walk the streets of the city of DeKalb and not have to turn around and look behind their back. So we have had a reduction in total crimes against persons, about 8.5% from 2024 to 2025. Now, I know that might not seem like a significant amount, but You know, every time you have a decrease in crime, no matter what it is, that's a win, and you have to take that. Total crimes against property, about 11%. We've seen a decrease there. And we also saw a decrease in crime against society, which is about 6%, and that's from 2024 to 2025. So those are the things that we have to continue to strive to reduce that crime number. That number has to constantly decrease, and as long as we see a constant decline in those categories, then I'm telling you that the city of DeKalb is a safer place, and we can put the numbers and it'll pass that test. One of the things where we strongly need to work on, not just as a police department, but as a community, is domestic violence. I looked at the operational summary the other night, and the majority of that summary for that between Friday night and Sunday was full of domestic violence or domestic disputes. It's an extremely hard crime to interdict because the sanctity of the home is what it is. Law enforcement cannot be inside your home without legal reason to be there. So we're going to need to work on this as a community. We need to make sure that people know that domestic violence is not something that we should accept in any way, at any time, no matter where you live, no matter how much your bank account, how much money you have in your bank account, doesn't matter your stature. It really doesn't. And we have to do a better job at preventing domestic violence. And we work extremely close with Safe Passage, who was here today as well, and we're going to continue to work with them to reduce the number of domestic violence cases in the city of DeKalb. It is a problem. We're going to have to continue to work on it to make sure that we reduce it. So we talk about a category that I really don't like to talk about because that means someone lost their life in DeKalb through the hands of someone else. And you know, in 2024, we had 0 homicides in the city of DeKalb, which is a great thing. And I think I mentioned before that the only number in this category that's acceptable is 0. Unfortunately, in 2025, we did have a young lady lose her life, and it was domestic related. It was a domestic violence situation that led to her death. So that's extremely unfortunate. And this year, we have had a beautiful child lose their life through a domestic violence situation, which is heartbreaking. And our officers worked extremely hard on that case, and it really, when people ask me, hey, you know, how are your officers doing after that case, I tell you, it was hard for them, hard for me as the chief of police to talk about it. But it was domestic related, and that's unfortunate. So as you can see, when I talk about domestic violence being a serious issue for the city of DeKalb, it's in these situations it led to death, and that cannot happen here. So we got to continue to work hard as a community to reduce domestic violence. So we look at some of our combined statistics. Our shots fired call we've had a reduction of 84% from 2021. We had over 100 calls of shots fired in 2021. In 2024 and 2025, we had 16. So confirmed shots fired call. So when I say confirmed, meaning there's some evidence that this actually occurred. Sometimes you get calls of backfires, fireworks. We get numerous calls of that, those type of calls that people think are gunshots, but they're not. In these situations, we actually were able to obtain evidence that shots fired were actually occurred and they were confirmed. So that's an 84% reduction in shots fired call. Our arrests are down about 12% total arrests. So that means that we have law-abiding citizens entering the city of DeKalb. So this is where having a reduction in arrests is a good thing, because that means people are doing what they're supposed to do and they're following the laws of the state of Illinois and the city of DeKalb. So that's a good thing for us. And then we also have a 59% decrease in overall violent crime, which, like I said, is one of the most important categories for the people for the city of DeKalb and the community as a whole. So we want to make sure that we continue to reduce violent crime. We want to reduce the number of shots fired calls we have. And like us, this is part of us bringing in people in our community that are law-abiding citizens, and it shows in the statistical data. So I'm going to pivot a little bit here. This is something that I felt that I had to do this year, and I'll explain to you real quickly that I'm going to turn over my annual report to my deputy chief, Mr. Jason Leverton. He is retiring with 30 years of dedicated service to the city of DeKalb. And when I tell you this man has done as much as a human being can do for a police department in his 30 years. He is the type of individual that changes light bulbs. He'll paint a wall if it needs to be painted. He will fix a toilet if it needs to be fixed. And that has nothing to do with any of the other things that he has done for the city of DeKalb, but I just need you to know the magnitude of his dedication to the city of DeKalb and to the DeKalb Police Department is amazing. And I've truly never seen someone work as hard as he does for an agency. And I work with the Illinois State Police. I work very closely with the Chicago Police Department, and I can guarantee I've never seen someone as dedicated and loyal and diligent with it in the way that he moves every day about putting the department first and the city of DeKalb first. So I'm going to bring Deputy Chief Leverton up, and he's going to continue the annual report for the city of DeKalb. Deputy Chief, step up. Yes, sir. Thank you. Yep.
Well, thank you for the kind words, Chief. I do appreciate that, and thank you, City Council and City Manager, for this opportunity. And even after 30 years, all I can say is it's an honor and a privilege to help present this 2025 annual report, and it has truly been an honor and a privilege to serve the City of DeKalb. I can tell you, I love the City of DeKalb. I have loved the DeKalb Police Department. I know throughout this entire journey that it's been the right place for me. When I was thinking about preparing this annual report, in fact, it was just today, I got to thinking about how far we've come in a lot of ways. So I dug out our 1996 annual report from the year that I started, and you don't need to try to adjust your vision or your monitors because there is no color in this annual report. It's entirely in black and white, and I will say for our 2025 annual report, there's a handful of printed copies, but in the digital age, any member of the public can view this online on the city's website. It really is a beautiful document, and I must thank our administrative assistant who's here tonight in the back row, but she did the lion's share of this work in putting it together. And if you've ever put together a large document, the 1996 annual report is 42 pages, and we're now up to 63 pages. But if you've ever had to put one of these together, even with the conveniences of modern technology, you know it's a struggle to get those margins all right and get everything lined up and sized the right way. So thanks for her work on that. So. In 1996, when I first started, by the end of that year, we had 52 officers. Of course, now we're up to 75, so we've grown a lot there. We had 7 full-time telecommunicators. We now have 14. We have a couple more to hire to get us up to 16. And when I first started, the city manager was Mr. Bill Nicholas. Now, he'd left us for a time, so I will remind you, sir, I've been here the whole time. But we definitely welcomed him back, and we appreciate his leadership and certainly your leadership, sir, and with help of the council. We have come a long way just in these last 5 years that Chief Byrd has been here. You might recall that the police department in those days was in the old city hall, which has now been torn down, of course. For us, as the police department, it was very small, cramped, crowded. Tracy remembers every closet was turned into an office. Storage was just wherever you could cram anything. We always joked that City Hall had two temperatures, too hot or too cold, which was true. Now, I grew up in a large family, so we didn't have a lot of nice things. It was hand-me-down clothes and discount, bargain bin shopping. But I developed, as one of the older siblings, a motto for our family growing up, and that was, if it ain't broke, it ain't ours. And I kind of adopted that for the old PD because it had a lot of issues. So being able to move into our new facility in 2013 was a tremendous, tremendous improvement. We expanded our physical space almost 5 times. The size of patrol and investigations, just to be able to do their work, was a big improvement. Just safety in booking prisoners, the organization and retention of evidence, just so much better. Now, in 30 years, and having been here 30 years, I do get reminders sometimes about how long I've been here. Now, to me, it seems like just yesterday sometimes, but you might notice on our patch, we have the year 1856, which is, of course, when DeKalb was first incorporated, but I was giving a tour of the police department to a group of school children, and one of them saw the patch, and he goes, "Oh, 1856, is that the year you started?" And I said, "Yes, it was me and Abe Lincoln on patrol." But then more recently, in the break room, I was having a conversation with one of the sergeants about our field training tasks. When a new officer starts, he has a number of field training tasks to go through, and we had been updating those, and there was a younger officer there that looked at me and he said, "Well, I was just wondering, DC, if one of your training tasks had something to do about being sure to secure your horse up to the hitching post before you came into the PD." And I said, "Yes, and as the DC and having been here 30 years, you can now go on walk patrol the rest of the day." It was January and 15 degrees, but.
There you go.
So Chief had asked me to go through the operational divisions of the police department, and I will say I've been proud to serve in every one of our operating divisions, and each stop for me was a new experience. It was a whole new perspective. I served my first 16 or 18 years, I guess, in patrol, and when you start off as a patrol officer, that's really how you picture your whole career, is this is where you're going to stay. But I got asked to be on the support services side, had a brief stop in investigations, and because of that, it helped me become more well-rounded and really more aware of what it takes to run everything in the police department. But even before I start that, if you would just oblige me a few moments, I'd like to talk about how I got started in law enforcement in general, and how it relates to the big picture of the DeKalb Police Department, not in just this annual report, but for our reputation throughout really our entire existence. As a senior in high school, like a lot of high school seniors, I had a lot of big ideas, had a lot of big dreams, but really no plan on how I was going to get there, and really no certainty about what I wanted to do. But an incident happened to me on a Friday night, and I grew up in a small town in northwest Illinois, and back then kids would all kind of gather in the town square. We'd park our cars, and sometimes we get the hacky sack out and kick the hacky sack around, and I see some kids in the front row. If you don't know what a hacky sack is, you can Google it. You can Google it. But in football season, we toss the football. In baseball season, we toss the baseball. But one night when we were out there, a pickup truck came roaring in and slammed on the brakes and came to a squeal and stop, and it wasn't anybody we recognized. And although the young man didn't get out of his truck, he started yelling and cursing and swearing and carrying on, and we're all looking at each other. We don't know who he is. And then he starts power braking his truck where he's got foot on the brake, foot on the gas, and he's burning rubber there in the parking lot. And then as he goes to take off, he comes right towards me and runs me over and knocks me back into my own vehicle, put a big dent in it, and I'm laying on the ground, injured, bewildered, in shock. And the truck goes roaring off. A couple of my friends jump in their car to try to take off after him. They can't catch up. So the sheriff's office comes out to take this report, and they're asking me for a description of this man and his truck, and really all I had was a long-haired country boy in a pickup truck, which at that time probably would have described about half the population of Stevenson County. But as I was talking, one of the deputies, he says, I think I might have an idea who that is. And he jumps in his car and he leaves. About 20 minutes later, he comes back, and that driver of the pickup truck is in the back of his car, and he's still hissing and spitting and carrying on. And he looks right at me and says, "Yeah, that's him. That's the guy." And I'm thinking, I thought this was supposed to be the other way around, where I'm identifying him. But as it turned out, he was drunk, had a suspended license even. He mistook me for someone else that he was having a problem with. But I will say that that night, it struck me that this is something that I would like to do, to be able to be there when people need help the most. I knew what it was like to be an innocent victim doing nothing wrong, and to have this happen. So that's how I got started, and I went to college, started a 4-year program in criminal justice, and I was loving it. And also at that time, Cops was brand new on television, and so was ESPN Sports Center. So my friend and I, my best friend from high school, we would sit and watch all night. We would watch our episode of Cops and then ESPN, and then it just replayed, okay, because they didn't have nonstop programming back then. It was just on this loop. And I remember thinking, watching this Cops program, like, this really looks fun. Like, this looks like something that I could do. But in college, I think it was my second year in college or third year, is when the Rodney King incident happened. And I remember our instructor rolling in a video card and playing that for us, and we're all watching this, and he asked at the end, "Well, what do you think about that?" And I remember really being nervous, like, that's not right. Like, that shouldn't happen. Like, there's no way you can justify that. And I started to get worried, like, uh-oh, is that what it's going to be like? You know, and I vowed really in that moment that if I went on and got hired at a police department and it was heavy-handed or underhanded or shady or connected to the mob, then I would go somewhere else. And if I found that every place was like that, then I would do something else. So my standing here 30 years later, it's much more about the long-standing tradition of professionalism at the DeKalb Police Department than it has to do with my own personal longevity. So I wanted to point out, if you could go back to that photo for just a second. So this photo, it's me. About 20 years ago, I'd like to point out I haven't changed a bit. But one thing I did want to point out about the photo, this is in the old police department in the basement of City Hall. And you can kind of see some evidence of what I was talking about. There's no, smart boards or screens or anything. I was literally using a chalkboard. This was a presentation for our Citizens Police Academy. And the things that I was speaking about was public relations, community service, and community participation. And I will say that's what this department is all about, like we always have been. But under Chief Byrd, even more so. I think you would be hard-pressed to find any department anywhere that does more in the community and has more programming for the community than we do. So in going through our operating divisions, first up we have our Community Support Services. It's headed up by Commander Steve Lekes. Just the commander and his small staff, just them alone, engaged in 513 different community engagement events throughout the year in 2025. This division includes our community service officers. We have one with us here tonight. They can go out and do community caretaking tasks, things that don't require a police officer to be out for, with stray animals and parking violations and abandoned vehicles, things like that. We have our communications division, which is our 911 telecommunicators. And these telecommunicators, or TCs we call them for short, they do an amazing job answering all those incoming phone calls. It's 911, it's phone calls on the regular line from the public, all the internal calls. It's monitoring our license plate readers and public safety cameras, and just a whole host of things. Anytime I talk about our TCs, I always describe it as extreme multitasking, where you're not allowed to make a mistake because the stakes are high. Also in our community support services is our social work program, and I know they were recognized here just a month or two ago, so I won't spend too much time with them other than just to point out again that they connected in nearly 1,700 incidents in 2025 of connecting people to services. And this has been an amazing program. Some of you have heard me say this before, but this is one of the best things we've ever done as a department, is the social work program. And I know it's been supported by council, which we appreciate. Next, we'll move to patrol. Commander Tony Kwasniewski, he's back here with us tonight as well. It's his first year as commander in patrol, and he's done a remarkable job. Of course, it's our largest division, and with patrol, along with that comes really the bulk of our work. And again, they patrol the city 24/7 every day of the year in traditional squad cars. We have one UTV, a couple of motorcycles, bicycles. We've been able to use drones quite a bit in these last couple of years, which really gives us the kind of eye in the sky, literally, to help keep us safe and the public safe as we do different operations. Patrol is responsible for doing alcohol and tobacco compliance checks, which of course has been a problem in our community where youth have really probably too easy of access to things. So they've did a number of those checks. Again, our traffic services, of course, case investigation, and then responsible for the training of our new officers. In investigations, we have Commander Keith Erkey that heads up our investigations division. Of course, they're responsible for really all of the higher level type cases, ones that take more time and more effort and more resources to investigate. Along with that, we have our advanced criminal enforcement team. That's kind of our street crimes unit that really keeps a handle on drug and gang cases. In 2025, they were assigned over 450 cases. And then Commander Erkey also is a co-commander of the county-wide special operations team, where we do high-risk search warrants and high-risk searches and so forth. In our administrative services division is Commander Craig Woodruff. He's responsible for managing all of our in-service training. Probably everyone is aware that the training requirements for police officers is not just at the beginning at academy, but it's every year. There's a certain number of hours and topics that we have to cover, and he manages that. Responsible for our evidence retention and management, which of course is very important to the prosecution of cases. And then he manages a lot of our technology services. I've mentioned the license plate readers and squad car cameras, public safety cameras, body cameras. There's so much technology now, and I will say in 30 years, it's probably the most noticeable or distinct improvement and change is how really reliant and we are on technology and what a tremendous aid it is. And again, I know we come before City Council with kind of some high-priced items sometimes for technology, but I can tell you that these investments have been worth it. Our records division is supervised by Stephanie Turner, who's also here tonight, and she has done an amazing job with our retention of police reports, and that's everything: accident reports, parking tickets, traffic tickets. They did over 1,700 FOIAs last year, nearly 1,000 requests for evidence, over 1,600 background checks for other government agencies and private entities, over 1,100 body camera requests, nearly 1,200 video and photo requests. Of course, they fulfill subpoenas, expungements. So just with a small staff in that records office, they are equally as busy really cleaning up and keeping up after all of us and all of the work that we have to do. So in totality, that represents our operating divisions. And before we conclude tonight, we do have a dedication of our 2025 annual report. But before we do that, Mayor and City Council, any questions or anything that the Chief and I can clarify?
Council, questions, comments? What? Oh, I mean, the one I love looking at, I had a call today, actually one yesterday and one today on traffic violations in our community. It's the number one that I get, Chief. I forward them on to you all the time. For all those watching and those in the audience, to see in 2021, we issued 1,870 tickets. And then in 2025, 3,906. So this issue of traffic violations in our community, I know at times it may not seem like it's being addressed, but it's being addressed. And I know in great part that's because you have a lot of the staffing that you need to be able to dedicate towards that. You know, Chief, you were talking about the murders that we've had and the shots fired. I remember being with Sergeant Sonny at Ridgebrook while Calvin Hamilton was in the parking lot, and the mom of that woman whose son used his ankle bracelet as a holster, and it was like I was in a third world country, and I'm in with my bulletproof vest. I think it was with Balshmity at the time too, and it was chaos. I couldn't believe our community here in the city of DeKalb had gotten to this point, and that was 2021. Now you go to Ridgebrook, my last ride along, we walk through, I think we saw 2 people in the hallway maybe. You know, could it use a coat of paint? Sure, but it was calm. and quiet. And what that means to me is not just the kiddos that live there that got to get up in the morning and go to school and come back home. They're doing that in an incredibly safer environment than it was just a handful of years ago. And then all the people that live there, the work that you all have done, I know Officer Hernandez has been on the department. You know what it was like back in the day and what it is like now. And that's a direct result of the hard work you, Chief, Deputy Chief, and everyone in the department has been doing to actually see this kind of transformational change in our community. And I got to give you all just an incredible amount of credit for your hard work. I mean, I'm sure at times you thought, what is going on? Is it ever going to change? And then it did. And Quaz, I mean, you were there too. Just the work that you've done, I know, Chief, you're right. It's not a thankless community, because I know people all the time that thank your officers, but I don't want to speak on behalf of council, but thank you. My gosh, we know it's a big part of what you all have been doing. I know it's team effort, requires that we're all cogs in the wheel, but you're on the front lines. And for me to sit up here and what assistance we've been able to give, what tools we've been able to give the DeKalb Police Department in order to you all to do your job better, I'm proud to have been a cog in this, a small cog in the wheel of change that you have all implemented. So I just wanted to say thank you for the hard work. Keep it up. We've got more work to do, but wow, what a difference a handful of years has made in this community. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you. So again, with the finishing of our 2025 annual report, we thought it would be a very worthy gesture to dedicate it to the memory of lifetime employee Jim Rhodes. And I know some of his family is here with us, and before I read the information on this dedication page, just share one more quick personal story, because Jim was one of the very first people that I met within the DeKalb Police Department when I was about to be hired 30 years ago. It was actually Don Gladden, longtime detective, I'm sure a lot of you know Don, that was doing my background. So I had to come into the police department, and it was in the evening, and of course at the old city hall, and he walks me back into detectives, and it was a place that just kind of had this mystique to it. It smelled like smoke, because you could still smoke in detectives, all right? You couldn't smoke anywhere else in City Hall, but of course that didn't last, I don't think, much longer, but it did occur. So Don takes me back to his cubicle, and we're just having our conversation, and he's asking, a lot of questions. And I knew somebody else was present on the other side of the detective area, but I didn't even see him when I walked in. And when Don was walking me out, this voice from the other side is like, "Don, who do you have over there?" And it was Jim. And Don walks me over. He's like, "Well, I've got Jason Leverton here. He's an applicant with us as a police officer." And Jim says, "Well, are we going to need to cut him, or is he going to be all right?" And I'm, of course, a little nervous. And Don was like, "Oh, no, things are looking just fine for him. I think he'll be joining us real soon." And he sticks his hand out, and he goes, "Welcome. Look forward to working with you when you get here." And I will tell you, as a young man just starting off, like, that meant the world to me, to kind of have that kind of acceptance, even without knowing who I was, and of course hadn't worked a day yet, but was already being welcomed. So on this dedication page, we put as our last page of the annual report, and just kind of a summary of his career. Jim started with the department in the patrol division on August 8th, 1971. And even though I've been here 30 years, that's before I was born. Later became a detective, where he served in the investigations division for a number of years. He then retired on March 1st, 2002, after 30-plus years of service. 3 days after his retirement in 2002, Jim started his new job with the department as a part-time community service officer as an evidence tech, where he worked for another 23 years. He was always meticulous in his documentation and retention of evidence items for the police department. Jim passed away on March 30th, 2025, following a brief illness, so almost exactly a year ago. His unprecedented 53-plus years of service is a truly remarkable accomplishment that is not likely to be replicated in modern times. His legacy has made a lasting impression on the department, on what is truly an exemplary lifetime achievement of dedication and service. There's a photo on this page of Jim receiving a 50-year service award from Chief Byrd in 2021, and Chief is not likely to repeat giving that award out. Jim was a friend to everyone. a mentor to legions of officers and detectives, and a testament to the type of work ethic and integrity that is necessary in a career at the DeKalb Police Department. So this 2025 annual report is dedicated in his honor.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Leverton. Truly, this dedication just goes to say what this year, last year, truly meant. We lost a legend, an icon for the city of DeKalb. And like Deputy Chief Leverton said, when we were putting this annual report together, and again, kudos to Melissa Knaplock, administrative assistant, along with all our commanders and everyone in the building. We put this book together in his name. And I talked to Sharon. I said, hey, look, we want you to come up and be a part of this because this is important. You will never see this again. I'm almost 100% sure. I just don't think it'll happen again. Number one, people got to want you for you to make 53 years. You got to want to be here. Those two things, and then you got your health. Those things have to all align, and for Jim it did for a long time. And although I only knew him for 5 years, the first thing I did when I got here, when I found out I had a 50-year employee, I'm like, wait a minute, we got to do something about this. So, and I talked to the city manager about it. I said, hey, we got to recognize him, and he's like, oh yeah, let's do it. So, before, we do have a couple of things for the family we want to give them, but before I do, I just want to say again, thank you to the city council for giving us, and the city manager specifically, because I talk to him every Monday, and he'll say, Chief, what do you need to do your job? And every time I've told him what I needed, and he has not once failed me one time. He said, we'll get it for you, and then and he comes to you and you guys approve it, so you get it for us. And the officers here and the officers that are not here, they use every piece of equipment that you give us to the best of their ability. That's how we can develop an annual report like this to present to the city of DeKalb. I am with you, Mayor Barnes. I'm so proud of this report, and I am so proud of every member of the city of the DeKalb Police Department. City of DeKalb and the DeKalb Police Department. The 99 members, I'm so proud of them. And they work hard every day, and we're going to continue to win the day. I promise you that. I promise the city of DeKalb that we will continue to win the day. So with that being said, sir, and I appreciate you. City Manager, anything for us before? Okay. Before we go any further, we do have a couple items that we want to extend to the family. So we had these dedication of the pages, the final page of the annual report done, and we wanted to make sure that Sharon and his daughters had these to hang up in their own homes. And then we thought about it today, and we said we're gonna get another one done to hang up at the PD. So, so I want to make sure I present these to you.
Thank you very, very much. It's beautiful. Thank you.
And, sir, thank you for your time. I know it's a little long, but this annual report needed to be displayed in this fashion, and because I think it says a lot about the DeKalb Police Department. So, and if you don't need us any further, I will, if you indulge us to take a photo with the family and come on down. So, please, if you guys would, come on up. Sir? Please go.
No.
I'm going in the back.
Come on, Kate.
Nice job.
Come on. We'll make room for you and me.
Right here. Right here? Good.
All right, got everybody? Don't get any pens. All right, we'll do 3 in 3, 2, 1, 2, and 3. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks. Thank you, Chloe. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. Thanks again.
Okay. Where'd everybody go?
You bet, Chief. This is probably one of the best starts to a meeting we've maybe ever had. That was just great. All right, moving on to D4, our pause for patriotism. City Manager. So anyone new tuning in at home, just realize this is the anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, 250 years. And every council meeting, the city manager takes a moment to inform us on just some specific moments throughout history in recognition of this great anniversary.
Thank you. A very hard act to follow. So I'm going to be brief tonight, but there is a connection between the thrust of what I want to say tonight and what we just saw. So what we saw was how individuals and families can make a difference in a community. And although, as we look at our American history and we go back to 1776 and come forward, it seems that the big challenge for human beings to feel like they can make a difference is it gets more complicated, and the rhythms of large forces that seem out of our reach continues, and the pace continues. And today is certainly a faster pace than the few minutes I'm going to give today to the 1840s. And why even talk about the 1840s? The 2020s are hard enough, right? But I think it is instructive that at this time there were people taking action in the context of polarizing opinion that can speak to us. And I think that's the advantage of learning history in any format, whether in a school setting or in a conversation as we're having tonight, and as hopefully the community has from time to time in living rooms and dining rooms and churches and other places. So I'm going to be brief tonight, and the reason I look at the 1840s, and there's quite a lot of background, and there's some nice maps and so forth, so if you have a chance, take a look, and you'll see the context more graphically portrayed, is that it was a time when the generation that had given birth to the Declaration was dying off. And those of us who have parents or grandparents that may have been in World War II are seeing the same thing now. Huge sweeps of history and huge impersonal forces at work, but individuals, some of it leading to heroism, some of it just leading to survival, were making a difference. And in the 1840s, we had the first experience of, I guess, coming to grips with the limitations of the principles of the Declaration. Not that they were not well put, but life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness always beg the question, for whom? And in this period, after a series of congressional compromises and a Wild West that people could escape to when things got too tough, we met ourselves in Texas. And those of you who've seen a lot about Texas probably in the movies, the Alamo, and so forth, we have some recollection, or not recollection, but at least recognition of the fact that there was a war or something like a war between the United States and Mexico. And what was that all about? Well, it gets back to first causes. So who is going to benefit from the Declaration and its principles? Is it everyone who is a citizen? And how about those that are not citizens? And in particular, how about people who were enslaved? It's interesting to note that in the 1830s, 33, 34, 35, Texas was just being settled by Americans who at that time were flooding in from nearby territory, and it was all territory just to the east. And they were called Texians or Texicans. They were from some other place. They immigrated to Texas, where there was a lot of land and not a lot of population. The concerning thing for a lot of Americans back east was many of those folks were bringing their slaves with them. In fact, 1 out of every 8 people for the first 5 or 6 years of the 1830s who landed in Texas was a slave. Well, the presence of these folks and the fact that Mexico had outlawed slavery, but it's a very sparse population, and the ease with which people could lay down a claim to property in Texas did lead them, these new immigrants and these new settlers, into conflict with the Mexican government. And after about a year of a lot of stern letters back and forth, people took things into their own hands, and conflicts arose. After about 6 months of skirmishes, there was a fledgling army, and it was annihilated at the Battle of the Alamo. There were about 100 Americans who died there. Within 1 month, a fellow by the name of Sam Houston, you've heard of the name. By the way, he died after the Civil War had started, and he was a staunch Unionist for all of his life. But he was also a person who was very enterprising at the time. He not only organized the army to go to settle accounts with the Mexican army, which was much bigger, but he also was working with people in the territory to create the kingdom, basically, of Texas. It became a republic. Not a state, not an American territory, a republic. They were bold people at the time. And that, for a while, settled things in our Southwest, but not for a very long time. Exactly 10 years later, there was a war with Mexico. And that Mexico was a lot more, that war was a lot more purposeful. There was an administration in Washington that wanted, in the worst way, to settle the area with the possibility of having slavery extended all the way from east of the Mississippi, all the way to California and up to Oregon. And then there were also people in the North who were thinking that's not where we want to go. Not because necessarily, and frankly, the majority of people in the North were thinking in their anti-slavery way, not because they felt that persons of color should have all the same civil rights and political rights, but because they were very concerned that slavery in the territories would prevent them or their descendants from ever settling and having that opportunity to move west and do something for themselves and their families. And so the fight was on. War was actually declared against Mexico. Interestingly, as we look ahead, and in the next month and a half, we're going to get to the Civil War. And at the time, there were some people who thought we might get to Civil War, but not everybody thought that. But certainly, a fuse had been lit in the Mexican War. And interestingly, as I point out in my background, the military leaders in the Civil War on both sides cut their teeth as lieutenants or as soldiers in the Mexican War. As a matter of fact, a Lieutenant Grant and a Captain Lee fought within about 1.5 miles of each other and never met, on the same side at that time, with the American forces against the Mexican forces. And out of all of this came a settlement. It's interesting, I'm going to make 2 points and I'm going to sit down. and talk about city business. One thing is that in this time, the 1840s, late 1840s at this point, we see the second generation of Americans, one in particular by the name of John Quincy Adams, who was the son of John Adams, who was one of the authors of the Declaration of Independence, also getting near the end of their lives. It was only a few weeks after the war was over, and America, by the way, had paid at the price of 5 cents an acre for about 338 million acres that belonged to the Republic of Mexico, which is about a third to a half of the size of Mexico before the war. But with that grand settlement and other things, Mr. Adams had been very busy. And one day, 3 weeks after the war was over officially, he collapsed at his desk in the House of Representatives. He had been in 1777, along with his father as a 7-year-old, we talked about this last time, on an American ship frigate going to Europe to try to gain European support other than British for the American cause. He was a diplomat as a late teen, early 20-something, between America and the courts in Russia, also in Germany, and also in Holland. He became a senator. He also became president of the United States, and after serving as the president, he decided that his service had not been fulfilled to the country, and so from 1831 until 1848, he served in the House of Representatives and died at his desk. He was carried away, but he was dead at his desk. It's my goal in life. Finally, and I have to set the stage. It's also it was a stage that was set for him, and with perfect hindsight, we can say, oh, that was a formative part of his life. But a first-time congressman from Illinois by the name of Lincoln arrived in Washington in December 1847 with his wife and 2 sons. He threw himself into his work. He was not an educated man. What he read, as he said later on in life, stuck with him. While he was serving for that year, and he never left Washington, he had 456 roll calls. He only missed 13 of them. He had a bad cold probably at one point and missed some. Nevertheless, his constituents did not support him for re-election. And why was that? Well, he was one of several Whigs who repeatedly, that was the name of the party at the time, criticized the administration for the war with Mexico. And although the Congress had declared the war, he was concerned that the ever-increasing activity of the American forces was beyond what the Congress had prescribed for the campaign. And in the end, he was not selected because some thought he might be disloyal. From that time until 1854, he goes underground. To us and to history in a lot of respects. He had a pretty good law career and was active in that, but was also formulating where is the middle ground that saves the Union. And we'll talk about him some more in weeks ahead, but we've jumped from 1820 to 1850. This is about the hardest period in American history to jump through, and I'm done.
Thank you, Dr. Nicholas. All right, I love it. Moving on to agenda item E, public participation. We have none. Appointments. We have none. Agenda item G, consent agenda. 1, minutes of the regular city council meeting of March 9th, 2026. 2, accounts payable and payroll through March 23rd, 2026, in the amount of $4,534,894.22. And 3, Freedom of Information Act FOIA report, February 2026. Can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Alderman Verbeck, seconded by Alderman Powell. Any comments or questions, council? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Smith,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes. The consent agenda has been approved. Moving on to agenda item H, public hearings, we have none. So agenda item I, number 1, consideration of minor revisions to the roles and responsibilities of certain city boards, commissions, and committees. Can I have a motion to bring it to the floor?
So
Oh, it's
moved.
consideration. Oh, wait, yeah, we need a motion. Yes, okay. Moved by Alderwoman Larson, seconded by Alderman Verbeck. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor. As I point out in the background, the DeKalb Municipal Code identifies 14 different boards, commissions, or committees that have different titles that have been over time established by council action. 11 of those are defined, and there's some color coding in the background, either by state statute. Example of that would be pension boards, as an example, or by city ordinance, because they serve a particular mission, whether it's in support of our operations or not. An example of that might be the Citizens Environmental Commission and Airport Advisory Board, the Citizens Community Enhancement Commission. There are 3 commissions that I've highlighted for our attention tonight. The 3 have not been meeting, and at least one of the 3, well, really, all of the 3 have either openings or unfilled positions because they have not met. And what I've proposed is a little different approach, and I think the most substantial change that is before you tonight is before the it has to do with the Human Relations Commission. We have, if you go into the code in chapter 49, you'll see what the mission statement is for that commission, and I think it's just about right, and the council may want to go into that, but I think the issue here is that we're blessed with 30-plus different private not-for-profit social service agencies that deal every day with people who either are served because of they have been underserved or are aspiring to join in community service themselves, but because of limitations on income or otherwise, they haven't been able to do that. So there certainly is vibrancy in our community with respect to wanting to do the right thing by our neighbors and by our fellow citizens. There are, amongst these agencies, a number that I have identified here tonight that are particularly active. All are active and all performing a good service, but have been over time, over the decades, for their human service focus, quite outstanding and have been very progressive in what they've done to make us a better community. And what I've suggested is that there are a core of 5 here. There may be more over time, but to start, that would propose a representative from their agency, and these 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever the council prefers would make up the nominees, which would be fielded by the mayor, subject to obviously the advice and consent of the council, and then that becomes the core of the human portion of the Human Relations Commission. And it could be that they don't have work to do. I think they would have some work to do, but they would be convened on matters of policy on an as-needed basis at the mayor's request, and that's how that would work. That's not unlike how currently the Economic Development Commission and Landmark Commission could be set up. Certainly the EDC, or the Economic Development Commission, is already on an ad hoc, as-needed basis, and what we're proposing here is something along the same lines for these three commissions.
It's, so real quick too on city council, so I have found over the last 5 years-ish, you know, whenever there's a particular issue in the community, I default to, especially Family Service Agency, Hope Haven multiple times, and there's been members of Safe Passage that I always have had some great conversations with. But it keeps coming back to, I'm going to the people that deal with this on a daily basis, that really understand what's going on in the community, but in many ways from a holistic perspective. And I've enjoyed their counsel and looked for their counsel repeatedly over the last, like I said, 5 years. But then what I've also found is the interaction that they have amongst each other. They're always communicating with each other. They're always building relationships, because a lot of their service commingle with each other. So the relationships that they've had helps them achieve their mission, but it's also helped me become informed on a variety of topics. So I love the idea of, if we are going to if we're going to have major issues that we want a group to get together to, or in order not to address, but to make recommendations to council. I agree with the city manager's idea on the commission here of bringing the ones together that are most informed, that we can convene, have them discuss. Homeless would be a perfect example of a topic I would love for them to be able to work together on and figure out what are some recommendations, because what's different than individuals, like I said, daily these people are working in our community on many of the issues that'll be before us, but they also understand where there's grant money. They also understand where there's a variety of different funding mechanisms. They also understand where there's different services that we may not have in our community that people could engage with outside of our community in order to address the various needs that they've had. So this idea of the Human Relations Commission being made up, rather than as individuals, but of organizations, and I personally would like to see it be established organizations in our community that have been around for a while, that truly know DeKalb, that we can lean on and leverage their knowledge in order to help us make the recommendations that we might need on a variety of topics. And lastly, the city manager mentioned it quickly. We'll have this discussion after that, but I would love to see our commissions, the ones that we reference here, and we can specify that, turn to meeting on demand. I can't tell you how many times I've heard Scott Zach say there's not enough people for a quorum, or we've actually had to call meetings just for them to adjourn them because there was nothing for them to discuss. And I don't think that's an effective use of people's time that are volunteering to participate in the community. I would love to see it where they meet when there's need. And if there's not a need, everyone gets a month off or 2 months off or something like that. But that's the second part of the discussion. So the first part is really the idea that the city manager presented to us of transforming the Human Relations Commission into representation by established nonprofits in the DeKalb community. So that's where I'm curious where council sits on that, and if you've got any comments or questions for the city manager. Yes, Alderwoman Larson.
I like where it's starting, but I also realize a lot of great things happen in our community from a church base, and that they are also having some of the same issues and
Agreed. Dealing
with the same things, and sometimes dealing with them not having grants or whatever, and finding out what works. So I could also see adding one or two, maybe a representative from churches who have really stepped up in a positive way, that we've seen the work, the ministry they've done has really made a positive impact.
That's a great point. There are, if I remember, there's two groups, let's say, that are representative of the larger.
Ministerial
bodies.
associations,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
All right, because we have, I don't know, believe it or not, we have like, 40, 50 churches in
Yeah, I
town, so
know.
we can't, but we have ministerial associations that now, energy ebbs and flows like it does with any association, volunteer associations, but there have been one or two that have been pretty consistently over decades meeting on a fairly regular basis, and so if, as you say, there are opinions that are voiced whenever their churches have services, and so they'd be a window to that commentary.
So we'll ask around, find which one might be the most representative, and I have no problem
Yeah.
calling them and reaching out. That's a great idea. And so everyone knows too, I've called Hope Haven, Family Service Agency, Safe Passage, Elder Care Services, and RAMP, and they all would be honored to serve on the Human Relations Commission in this form as well. So it's not just us speculating, the desire is out there to participate. Alderman Burbick.
Yeah, and their expertise, I think, will go a long way with supporting some of the needs that rise up in the community. More of my view of, and those I've spoken with, of commissions and committees is how do we get residents engaged? How do we get people involved in local government and share ideas and help to drive lead policy, shall we say, around city council and other local governing bodies. So I from a standpoint of and I served as a finance advisory committee, so I can speak to that experience in that role. But from a standpoint of these agencies being involved, I think it's terrific from an expertise standpoint. But from a standpoint of voting membership, I believe it should still be residents. I think our effort should be, more specifically, DeKalb residents, whereas these agencies are more of a regional view of services, not specific. And Alderman Smith, you've commented on this before, how do we more focus our resources on City of DeKalb? And I think that our residents can help us best do that with the guidance of expertise such as listed here. No different than Finance Advisory Committee when I was a member. Certainly a lot of knowledge, but not the expert in local government finance. So there were staff that helped us through that effort. So I think at the same time, how do we continue to engage residents and have their voices lead us in policy, at the same time being supported by these agencies, I think would go a long way.
Others? Yes, Alderman Smith.
Yeah, I agree with both aldermans. Thanks for that, Alderman Burbick. Somebody from the ministerial commissioner, I do think they still meet regularly. Another one I just thought of was, maybe the hospital, Ben Gordon. I mean, I think Safe Passage, Hope Haven all have a great relationship with Ben Gordon Services. And maybe do we go in depth? Do we maybe pull two from each agency so that we always have someone in attendance? Should they meet? I mean, do we go to that far, or?
Well, you can have a proxy. That's what most of the volunteer
Right.
associations do. It's this person, and in that person's absence, they fill out a proxy thing once a year, and they say, if I can't make it or if I'm sick,
Right.
it's so-and-so. Yeah.
But I think attendance seems to be, as the mayor indicated,
Mhm.
as everybody's indicated, it's always an issue. But yeah, I think I'd be for this, especially for the HRC. I mean, they don't meet that often. We haven't had anything to go to them.
I also, and I didn't want to hit this too hard, but the reason I set this up for your conversation tonight in this fashion is I really couldn't think of another way to generate not just persons like Alderman Burbick was saying of experience and expertise, but also people who have had a public voice, are content and accomplished at speaking in meetings, and
Right.
speaking to power and so forth. But the one thing I thought we should get away from is just the pure patronage piece, which is basically what has run our boards and commissions, except for those that have a defined, you have to be this or that. But it's who is known as a voice, but it's not representative of anything but that person. You could say I represent my neighbors, and that may be true, or I represent the 200 people I was with, you know, in a church outing or something like that. But then that comes and goes. That person leaves, or you know, and they don't poll people to see what is our combined view on this. It's just I'm my best judgment. In my best judgment, I'm the best person. So that's a long time ago. It was the same 5 or 6 people that you, and usually there were people of standing, but this gets people involved who are in the trenches and as well as the boardrooms. And I think that's important in our community.
Alderman Larson.
And sometimes, you know, I've just seen on some of the commissions I've been on in my tenure here is, oh, we need a new commissioner, you know, we're short one. Well, it's like this group of friends. It's like, well, I know somebody. And then pretty soon it's like, okay, now we have everybody's a professor at Northern. Well, okay, that's too one-sided. Or everybody is in this group because that's who kind of the nominations came up from. And so maybe by having other ones and different groups, you still have the same commitment to serve DeKalb, but you're not necessarily all on the same thought page as like just friends or somebody you might nominate. That you'll get a diversity. So I can see a problem with just trying to come up with commissioners that we've had in the past.
Yes, Alderman Powell.
Is maybe the bigger problem at hand defining the role of what we want the HRC to look like? I mean, at one point, it was kind of like, it was like a judge and juror type situation of the
It was,
where people
yeah.
were looking for problems, and it became to look like Matt Rose, we spoke where they wanted to bring people in front of them and kind of put them on the stand. And that's kind of not what it's supposed to be, if I'm assuming the ordinance the way it's wrote, right?
Yeah, definitely not the way it's
Yeah,
supposed to
so
be,
I
yeah.
mean, before you assign any role, maybe you want to relook at what you want it to look like before you bring anyone into the role, so we have a clear path and understanding of what we expect people to do, because you don't have people just sitting around thinking of what can we bring in front of us and what can we attack versus what can we contribute.
Yep. Yeah, Alderman Smith.
Yeah, and to go on the city manager's point, I've worked in my group, where I work, we've worked with all 5 of these, and they all work very well together. They all depend on each other. You know, they're experts in their own field, if you will, so I think we're covering, you know, really everything by doing this. I'm kind of pointing to the crowd because she's sitting out there, but yeah, they are experts in their field, and I would go to them if there was a problem in certain situations.
Yeah, for sure. They are, the citizens are.
Right, correct. That's where I'm kind of going with it, yeah.
And for me too, they all have boards that oversee their operations.
Yeah,
and
they're
all.
professionals.
Yes,
That means
real
from
quick.
the citizens standpoint.
I gotcha. But they all have boards that oversee them, and they're made up of a lot of residents throughout our communities. I know a majority of them, to Alderman Verbeek's point, you know, they serve the larger region, but I think every one of them will testify that a majority of their time is spent on DeKalb, and we're the largest municipality out there. My goal, the reason why I like this so much was, you know, we've got an issue with homeless that we have to figure out. We have a serious issue with domestic violence that we have to figure out. And maybe it's Alderwoman Larson's point, but when we have a group of individuals trying to solve some of these issues that are before us, the expertise may or may not be there. When we can bring a broad group of nonprofits together that have the expertise, have the training, have the experience, the ability for them to be able to tackle the problem definitely objectively, although they're all there because they're very subjective, but objectively, and to make some concrete recommendations to help us solve some issues that we have in our community. I think there's just such a high probability by utilizing our nonprofit community for that. I like the idea of that we just make the Human Relations Commission this. However it plays out, I think that ultimately we need this group of organizations to be able to come together to be able to address issues when the need arises in our community. It just seemed like a nice evolution for the Human Relations Commission in order to be able to accomplish that. Yes, Alderman Smith. Oh, Alderman Burke. Yeah.
The need is constant. It doesn't just arise. So I see everyone's point as far as management of time and whatnot, but I think if we can have a regularly scheduled time, a meeting when the public knows that they will be there, agenda or not, it would be terrific to be there for the public to set the agenda, right? The people with ideas, these are our challenges. How do we get help, for example, including these agencies in those discussions? But I think that we really, and I know that you all have these discussions on a regular basis, but I think it needs to be an open forum where you don't have to know someone, you don't have to ask permission, we don't have to decide, well, is this worth a meeting or is that worth a meeting, right? I mean, how do you really decide that? You don't. You're there for our residents, and that's what we need to view this as. And I'm would love to work with any and all commissions as far as helping develop agendas. What are the ideas coming from the community to drive an agenda? What are those policy, Mary, you're touching on some of these, what are these policy decisions that mean the most for those we serve?
The issue to that point is we have meetings that there's no agenda because there's no issue that was brought forward by the public, and these are people, individuals appointed to those commissions, as well as these are established, publicly published meetings that people could come to. I think we just had a Citizens Police Review Board meeting that they called it in order and then they adjourned because there was nothing to address. I don't understand why. I mean, I think everyone here gets letters and emails and calls from constituents. I mean, we are the gateway for the public to be able to express concerns that they have on issues that we know we need to address, which is why I've identified homeless. We've identified domestic violence are some situations that we have because we hear about it from people in our community. Having individuals, and Alderman Powell, maybe it's how we rewrite the description of the Human Relations Commission, but I do worry it's going to become a group of friends, which we've seen already. I do worry it's going to become judge, jury, and executioner. And when it comes to some of these topics, again, individuals, I think a lot of them, this day and age maybe, it exceeds the ability, or it exceeds it'd be too much to expect a group of 5 people to be able to really work through a domestic violence issue if 4 of them have had no experience in domestic violence, which is why I would love to have these organizations be the ones that are representative. And calling on them to address issues, I think, is a great solution, again, rather than forcing meetings to happen, because another thing I think some of us can testify to is when you create a meeting structure that they have to meet all the time, they start looking for work. They're creating issues that may or may not have been there, or they've been there, but they're just not that big of a deal. But now all of a sudden, we have to meet, we have to discuss, we have to do things. I would rather be very constructive and be very respectful of people's time, and when they need to meet, they can meet. The people can reach out to Family Service Agency or Safe Passage and express some issues that are out there, and Safe Passage could be like, you know what, we'd really like to get everyone together to talk about X, Y, or Z. Awesome. Let's get together and talk about it. But I think to be as effective as possible, the city manager's recommendation here, I think gives us a great path towards that. And if anything, why don't we try it, see if it works? If we've identified a gap, we can create a commission if we want to. I mean, we've got how many again, city manager?
There are 14.
Which I think if you Google, we probably have more commissions than any community. Wait, we have more than 14. I thought we had more than 14.
14 boards and commissions.
Is it really? Wow, okay. 14 still is more than,
By
I bet
statute, by
maybe
local
Rockford has more, or Chicago has more than us, but when I looked at other communities in the area, when I talked to mayors with the IML, we have a lot of commissions compared to others. And I think that reason is why we experience some of the issues we experience with commissions. So we can go ahead and we can move forward on something like this. And then again, if we feel like it's not serving, then let's figure out how to create whatever we can in order for it to serve. But I think this is a great, at least, first step right now. Yes, Alderwoman Larson.
Well, for the HRC, but I think Alderman Powell also brought up, is the next step of this, all of these in green that aren't by state statute. So like, let's say you're on one of these, and it's like, I don't know why we're meeting. Who can say to the group, I don't think we should meet. We should do every other month. Who has the power to do that? Does it have to come from this group, or does it?
I would say the chair. I mean, isn't that, how's that work now?
It's spelled, generally speaking,
Yeah.
it's spelled out in the ordinance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's
Even for
dictated
the
by.
green ones?
Yeah, there are certain ones that say in the ordinances that you have to meet a certain number of times.
Citizens Police Review Board is
Yeah,
one that's-
that, for an
Right.
example,
At least
that says
6
that you have
times
to
per
meet
year.
at least 6 times,
Yeah.
yep. That's a good example.
Yeah.
And then there's the ones that don't have a specific specification. You have to meet at least once if you are a subsidiary public body under the Open Meetings Act, and then they can meet as directed or as needed. Yeah.
And these are, correct me if I'm wrong, may I just
Yeah.
tag on that? City Attorney, so these are public meetings. These are not closed meetings, so that means anybody who has an interest in commenting has an opportunity under public participation. And all these would have to be advertised, and they'd be put on the city's website, no different than the city's council meeting, so. What I'd like to do, if it's okay with you, is bring back ordinances, because that would be the next step, and we can continue the conversation, but maybe in that time there's some interim conversation that will inform that decision.
Alderman Powell.
I'm just speaking from experience. I chaired the HRC. I was on there, the Citizens Police Review Board. There was no people coming. No one was coming to the meetings. No one was, maybe there was 2 issues while I was there that really weren't issues. And I mean, I've told you, I felt like there was nights where we were just showing up because we had to meet.
Right.
And there was times when I counseled where the commission was upset, but we didn't have anything. And there was times where people were just looking for something to meet or looking to find a problem. And I feel like you gotta be respectful with people's time. I mean, you don't wanna just find a reason just to meet, just because we're supposed to meet, because the ordinance says we're supposed to meet. And Mike, I don't know your experience. Have you been to the HRC meetings?
I've attended, I've not been a member.
But have you seen many people there? Have
No.
you seen the
No,
public going and
but
participating?
at the same time, though, I don't think that we've done a very good job with saying, hear ye, here are these various meetings, and here are the topics. And I think back to this formation of committees and commissions, now especially with social media, not trying to add work to Scott's plate, but I think if we made more public announcements about these service opportunities, that more people could be interested. Yes, I agree, Mayor and other council members that have talked about productivity and how will these groups work and form agenda items. I have the confidence in our residents that have interest in these particular areas that they'll be able to do that. Will they need help along the way? Sure, but certainly conversations that I have with people lead me to believe there's an interest in serving DeKalb. How does that look? I'm not sure.
City Manager.
Well, just to clarify, so I don't think there's any opportunity to do more noticing unless we go door to door, frankly.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah.
I see
Yeah.
Sid, you're at the meetings. I see you at the meetings. I feel
And I don't mean that
Scott-
facetiously.
no, Scott
What I
posts
mean
on
is,
social media and-
so if
Yeah.
we were to have a meeting of one of these boards today, particularly one of the 3 that we've identified as open to some massaging in the code, there would be, by law, because it's a public meeting, have to be a notice at least 48 hours beforehand. Typically, when it's smaller commissions and boards, even for a public meeting such as the city council, it's 4 to 5 days ahead of time. So people have plenty of time to read it, if they're interested, and see it. But let's say they just moved to town, or they just joined a church. And how can I get more involved? What are the issues of the day? Not only do we have all this on our social media and our website, but we publish, and this is only in the last 4 or 5 years, and Scott has been a big part of this, a summary of what's happened on every city meeting. You ever see the DeKalb News? Not that other thing, but what we publish, which is accurate. You know, here's the facts, here's a fact check. We had a meeting and it discussed this, here's the agenda, these are the comments, and then you go on to the next one. So if, you know, one of the beauties of, we've been talking a lot about American history, right? About citizenship in this country is you have the freedom to find anything you want about this. And by the way, we have people who are there to answer the call. So you call me, you call Ruth Scott, you call any of our department heads that might have some bearing on a particular topic, the police chief, so forth, you'll get an answer.
Yeah, Alderman Smith, and I'm going to raise my hand so I can go next. Okay. Please.
You can go last, I'll let you. No, but I agree with you, Bill, because don't we publish annually all of our meeting dates? And I subscribe to all the meetings on my calendar, so, I mean, it's,
I know, but I get it. We're all busy.
Yeah.
So if you don't see that one publication, then how do you know? Well, we don't leave it at that. We keep at it.
I
And by
agree.
the way, our elected officials sitting here get a weekly summary from the city manager's office, which says what we've done. And so everybody is free to share that with their
Right.
constituents.
So ultimately, to your point about people want to be involved, I think we had 2 elections, this last election, that people ran unopposed. I can't think of any way that, I mean, the Chronicle posts every election, lets everyone know, and yet we have 2 people run unopposed. But your idea, what we're talking about, has nothing to do to impact that. I know the Citizens Community Enhancement Commission is still going to meet, but there's times you don't because you don't have a quorum. But they're going to still continue to meet. The fact that we're moving to on-demand means nothing about you're going to have less meetings, right, Brad? Because you guys are going to still, I mean, you got a ton of stuff to go over and talk about. The Environmental Commission, yeah,
Unless we're directed otherwise.
yeah, the Environmental Commission is going to have things, and they're still going to meet. But this removes the handcuffs of forcing people to meet. And if you believe we need to do more, I mean, it's no problem, Scott, you could spend a little time and think about, are we missing a communication outlet? But then it would be up to all of us, including you, Alderman Verbeek, to be able to post and let people know when these meetings are happening that they can go and attend them. But I agree, I think we go out of our way, especially, we all know since Scott Zach's been in seat, the communication at the city of DeKalb is higher and more professional than it ever has been. So the recommendation ultimately is we can create the HRC with the nonprofits that we're talking about. I'll reach out to the church organizations, reach out to Ben Gordon, absolutely have conversations with them. Probably don't want to get too much larger because then it's getting too big and it's hard to have a meeting with a lot of people, but we can see about adding those on. We can go to on-demand just to be respectful of people's times, but then we all can work harder trying to get people to attend the commissions, and quite frankly, I could use help getting people to be commissioners on the commissions. I can't tell you how much time on that. We just got 2 new ones for the Planning and Zoning Commission, thank goodness. We got one coming before you all next month to be able to meet. But I would like to just have the city manager and the city attorney come back with some ordinance revisions on the meeting on demand for the ones in green, right? We're talking Environmental Commission, Police Review Board. I highlighted Airport Advisory Board because didn't they not have a quorum recently?
Usually they do.
Yeah, I know. I thought there was a meeting recently they didn't. But here's my point. Because they'll probably meet. I mean, they're an active group. They'll meet all the time. But if we just had the ones in green that are not under state statute to be on demand, I think it removes the handcuffs for them. City manager.
Well, we were focusing on the 3, but if you want to
Yeah.
focus on those, the green, which is another 5. The ones in yellow.
The ones in
yeah.
yellow or green too. I got you.
Yeah.
Well, wait. There's 6 in green and 3 in yellow, so there's 9 total. Is there a reason why we wouldn't just standardize on on-demand meetings for all those?
I'm just trying to keep this pretty clean,
Yeah.
the Citizen Review Board has already stated I think that's a bigger conversation, because we went through 6 months to give birth to it, and when people said you have to meet 6 times a year, that was a kind of a community command at that time. And I'm just saying, it's not the same as an Airport Advisory Board that could meet every other month rather than but then there'll be other times when it ought to be called. So anyway, I'll do whatever the council wishes. I just threw 3 up here that haven't met at all, to try to get focus on, well, how do we want them to exist, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, and I'll call on you just a sec, Alderman Powell. I want to extend it more. Like the Citizens Police Review Board, I've heard directly from them that they would like it if they didn't have to be required to meet, you know? And if we're doing this, it'd be nice to give them a little freedom. Alderman Powell?
I was gonna say, if there's no complaints,
Yeah.
why would you, if there's no complaints in it, why would you meet? What would you do? There's some meetings where there's no complaints at all, or there's nothing to meet about.
Yeah, and I don't go because from the very beginning, I wasn't expected to go, and it wasn't desired that I go, because I'll be preaching city policy at people who are supposed, so I don't. But there's other reasons why they would meet. It's obviously on concerns, complaints that are brought. That's one of their key roles. Another one is that they used to sponsor the Citizens Police Academy. And so they can meet to talk about that and engage people in the community. I'm not saying they're not doing their job, it's just something they could do. But then the Environmental Commission doesn't always have a quorum, and the Community Enhancement Commission typically does, hasn't always, but it has more recently, particularly with the 250th anniversary. Building Code Review Board doesn't meet except every 4 years, because its focus is just on one thing, to adopt or not adopt new building
Well, that already
codes.
has then.
Yeah.
They meet on demand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we could reshuffle and I could bring something else back.
Well, why don't we look at it? If something seems too crazy right now, or too hard of a hill to overcome, I guess changing the ordinance, sure. But ultimately, if they're not meeting because they don't have a quorum,
They're not insurmountable. I just broaden the focus and bring them back.
Yep, greatly appreciated. But if they can't meet because they don't have a quorum, that's pretty much on demand then at that point. But I would love to see the Citizens Police Review Board, because I get it, city manager, there's stuff that they could be doing. But these are people that, when they meet, they got a lot to do. I don't want them to have to meet unnecessarily. But if there is a complaint, you're right, Alderman Powell, they'll meet every time there's a complaint.
I will say, since we just had the police report today, I think it's probably a good thing that to my knowledge, we have not had one complaint sustained since the creation of this. And at a time that this was created, when many of the people in the room were involved in this, we were concerned that the public was not trusting police generally. So how can we make it clear that we are open to suggestions? And at the same time we were talking about this, we had just really totally revised our standard operating procedures, focusing on the de-escalation, and so on and so forth, so that we would be a model. And as long as we're a model, I'd say good.
Well, do you have some guidance? Do we make it worse, or do you know kind of what you need to do?
Oh, what I hear is at least the 3, and I'll add the Citizens Police Review Board. I can throw in the Environmental Commission and Citizens Enhancement Commission. You can meet on demand too.
Yes, Alderman Larson.
Okay, I hope I'm not muddying the waters more. The different commissions I've been on, is there like an actual, this is what you do, like job description? Because, I some of them were like, well, we could do this and that. Well, you don't have a budget. Well, then what are we here for? I mean, it's like, yeah, you want our time, but it's like, there's no money, there's no this, there's no that, so it's like, do you know, a lot of the people, they wanted to do things, but it took money, so I guess
Yeah.
that's part, back to
Well-
Alderman Verbeek, I'm like, but a lot of people, after like 2 meetings, they're like,
Well, it gets
Why am I
down to
here?
why they exist. They're
Yes.
advisory committees, they're not operations. So to say, we're gonna give a budget to you, we should give a budget to social services, we already do in grants, but we don't
Yeah.
presume to judge. So, I feel strongly that if we don't have volunteers on these committees, and they can talk to any of you and say, can the council consider, as you're doing your budget this year, a
Which
grant
we've
for
done that.
X? And
Enhancement
we've done it.
Commission is
We've
a
got the
perfect example.
250th, yep, 250 grand. So, anyway.
How about maybe version 2? Well, no, I mean,
Well, but
we
it-
could get
like-
we get these changes in place, and then
yeah.
we could talk with the commissions that we're on and that we meet with, and we could always have a further consideration on it,
Yeah.
rather than giving them,
Yeah, no,
2
and
months.
like I said, the reason I brought it up is probably more in response to Alderman Verbeek, is like, having people involved, but, I think for so many people who are just trying to make ends meet and live, get their lives taken care of, that then you're on this commission, and it's like, and exactly what comes of this, of my time, and it's like, well, there doesn't seem, on some of these, there isn't anything more than just, good idea.
Mhm.
And so I think a lot of people would be like, and I'm done. So I think, and that's why you don't see, we have like a long list of people waiting in line to be on a commission.
which is why I don't know how these all came about,
Yeah.
but that's probably why you see a lot of other communities that don't have
Yeah, I can see
nearly as
why.
many commissions, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll bring a potpourri of
Okay.
5 or 6, and you can say nix, or we like that, or let's revise it, and there'll be
Maybe
an
2 or
ordinance.
3.
What's that? Yeah.
Save you some time. All right. Appreciate you there. All right, go ahead and move on to resolutions.
Yes.
All right. Moving on to agenda item J1, Resolution 2026-039, authorizing a funding request from Barb City Manor for necessary building maintenance and safety projects at 680 Hayes Boulevard in the amount of $100,000. Can I have a motion to bring it to the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Smith, seconded by Alderwoman Larson. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. And this is a bit of business, but maybe it's only once a year or so that we gather to look at a request like this. Sarah Davis, who's the Executive Director of Barb City Manor, is in the audience and been patient tonight, and is happy to answer any questions you may have. But we as you know, own the building and the assets there. But the executive director and her board have done a mighty job of judiciously maintaining and at times refurbishing, as we're talking about tonight, some pretty pricey capital items that otherwise would fall to us to do, but in an arrangement that was worked out many years ago and was renewed back in 2019, I think they have been good stewards. I think that's the right word of the city's money and involvement. So tonight, what's before you, there was conversation about some things last year in 2025, but we talked toward the end of the year about possibly merging these together to get a better price in terms of the work that had to be done, and do all the roofs if we can with the coping on the top. And as you know, we've done elevators and other things and paving. But now the more meticulous but also pretty pricey replacement of the limestone caps, and we have exterior doors that are almost as old as I am, and we have several boilers that are always in need of some valve replacements, and those are very expensive. So the total cost before you tonight is $100,000. That's 2 years gang together, if you will. So take us through the end of this year, and we know they'll spend it well, and it will be a good maintenance program for the building this year.
Council, questions or comments? Yes, Alderwoman Larson.
I think it's just gonna cost more next year, so the more you can get done this year,
right.
go for it.
Totally.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and Sarah, you've been doing a wonderful job. I think all of us have been on the tour. It's an incredible facility you run that serves just a huge need in our community. So, no other comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Powell,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes,
Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes. Resolution 2026-039 passes. Number 2, Resolution 2026-040, authorizing the purchase of a 2 single-axle dump truck chassis from Trans-Chicago Truck Group in an amount not to exceed $223,394. Can I have a motion to bring it to the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Verbeck, seconded by Alderman Powell. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 resolutions related here, the second and third one. They both have to do with 2 single-axle dump trucks. The first one before you is for the chassis work, and then the second one is for the upfitting, which you'll notice is just a little bit more than the chassis these days. It shows how expensive things are getting. But as always, the street division went through this in meticulous fashion and went out to bid, and our budget had had allocated funds, council had allocated funds for precisely this kind of work, and we're replacing 2 dump trucks. One is 22 years old, one is 21 years old. They do a lot of things. You're most familiar with them during the snow season, and they're out there. They all have the spreader equipment in the back, a big plow in the front, the bells and whistles, and the box. So all of that is actually now a little more expensive than the chassis and the cab. So if you approve this, then we'll assume you're doing so because you approve the next one. We recommend your approval.
Council, questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Verbic,
Yes.
Larson,
yes,
Smith,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes. Resolution 2026-040 passes. Moving on to number 3, Resolution 2026-041, authorizing an agreement with Benell Industries for the uplifting of 2 single-axle dump trucks in an amount not to exceed $260,585.64. Can I have a motion?
so moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderwoman Larson, seconded by Alderman Smith. City Manager.
So credit to Andy Wright. You see what's happening here. Instead of going out and buying the truck that has everything on it, soup to nuts, at a much higher price, what we did, we looked at what it would cost to buy the chassis separate and then use a pretty local outfit to help us with the upfitting. There's savings in that. That's what's before you. This one is $260,586 more or less.
Council, questions, comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Larson,
Yes,
Smith,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes. Resolution 2026-041 passes. Moving on to number 4, Resolution 2026-042, approving of the replacement of 4 overhead doors and 3 door operators at Fire Station 1 by Raynor Door Authority in an amount not to exceed $41,700. Can I have a motion to bring it to the floor?
So moved.
second,
Moved by Alderman Verbeck, seconded by Alderwoman Larson. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. And this also is an allocation before you tonight that was anticipated back when we were putting our budget together. Fund 400, the Capital Projects Fund, is the source. We looked at a variety of things to help with the maintenance of our 4 fire stations now, the 3 that aren't the brand new ones that all have some things that are wearing out. And at Fire Station 1, we have 4 overhead doors that are involved here, as the mayor read in the title. Only 3 door operators because we replaced another door operator fairly recently. And the price is within our budget, and we recommend your approval.
Council, questions, comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Smith,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes, Resolution 2026-042 passes. Number 5, approval in omnibus form of Resolution 2026-043, authorizing a special event agreement with DeKalb Corn Fest Incorporated for the 2026 Corn Fest. Resolution 2026-044, approving a nonprofit special event liquor license for the 2026 Corn Fest. And Resolution 2026-045, approving the regulation of traffic on Illinois Route 38, Lincoln Highway for the 2026 Corn Fest. Can I have a motion to bring these to the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Smith, seconded by Alderman Powell. City Manager.
The mayor did all the work by reading the title. Ruth Scott reminded me a couple weeks ago as we were putting all this together for tonight that every year I promise we're going to do this in omnibus fashion, and we've just, for whatever reason, out of habit, not done it. So now you got it. You got the 3 pieces, which are part of all the authorizations for the Corn Fest. We allow them to have the festival in downtown business district. There's a liquor license authorization for alcoholic beverages in certain designated areas during the event, and then also the IDOT approved closure, and we'll work with IDOT on that end. So,
Council, questions, comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Powell,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes. Resolution 2026-043, 2026-044, and 2026-045 pass. Moving on to number 6, Resolution 2026-046, authorizing a restaurant bar liquor license for DeKalb Wing Company, LLC, DBA Buffalo Wild Wings, 2466 Sycamore Road. Can I have a motion to bring it to the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderwoman Larson, seconded by Alderman Verbic. City Manager.
thank you, Mayor. As the background states, this restaurant has been for sale. There is a prospective new owner. We need to, since liquor licenses cannot be assigned from one to the other, it's up to the council to do that. And so the operator would be, well, the liquor license would be issued to DeKalb Wing Company. And the initial issuance fee, if you approve this tonight, would be given to us. It's a non-refundable piece. The fire life safety review and background investigations have already been paid. Ultimately, we have to wait for the state license to come through, but this is our practice. We try to give them a chance to get that rather than bounce them back and forth over a period of months. So we recommend your approval.
Council, questions, comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Verbic,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes. Resolution 2026-046 passes. Moving on to agenda item K, ordinances, second reading, we have none. Agenda item L, ordinances, first reading, we have none. First time ever, I think. Agenda item M, reports and communications, council member reports. Alderman Verbic, you want to kick us off?
Many thanks to Public Works for pothole filling. Makes a big difference. Hearing lots of good comments about how we're doing a great job keeping up with that this early spring. So thank you.
Alderman Powell.
No report.
Alderman Smith.
Big thanks to Public Works for that little mild blizzard we had on Monday.
Yeah.
And follow-up, Andy, thanks for cleaning up the rest of the leaves. That's a good filler in, but excellent job to you and staff.
Yeah, definitely. Alderwoman Larson.
Thank you.
No report.
Myself, I'll just say I got to speak to a bunch of 7th graders at Clinton Rosette Middle School, and that is always, always fun. Outside of that, no report. City Manager.
Mayor, just want to recommend that the council not approve to hold an executive session tonight. We decided we don't need it.
Yep. Agenda item N, executive session, we have none. Agenda item O, adjournment. I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Powell, seconded by Alderman Smith. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are, oh, nay, same sign. We are adjourned. I know, right?
Stay on your